95% of Uber Eats orders are on time, which is great. Because when I want my spicy shrimp pad thai, I want it on time. Because, baby, there's no time like the present. Especially when it's pad thai related. But on the off chance your order is late, Uber Eats will give you 3 months, $0 delivery fee with a free Uber One membership. On time, pad thai, baby.
On time claim based on latest arrival time shown after order is placed. Offer ends 2/19/2023. Current Uber One members not eligible. Subscription will auto renew at $9.99 each month starting 3 months from initial enrollment. See Uber.com/Uber1 for terms. Benefits available only for eligible stores. Order minimums apply.
Manchester United headed to Wembley. One game still to play, but the Reds could hardly have put themselves in a better position than they have done with a 3-0 away win at Nottingham Forest City Ground. Marcus Rashford opened the scoring early on with his 10th goal in 10 games. Wout Weghorst scored his first goal for the club just before the break, and Bruno Fernandes made it 3 in 4 for him late on to make it an emphatic scoreline to take back to Old Trafford next Wednesday. A very warm and happy welcome to the Manchester United Weekly Podcast. Thank you for joining me, Harry Robinson and Jack Tait, for pretty immediate post-match review. Let's get stuck in, Jack. That was enjoyable at the very least, wasn't it?
It was a game that could easily have gone quite differently if Nottingham Forest's goal was allowed in the first half after a very marginal offside. But other than that, pretty comfortable evening for United. I think it showed in some ways the progression that we've made. They didn't really feel like we got out of second gear for most of the game. Certainly weren't at our best, yet still felt very comfortable for the majority of the game.
Yeah, I definitely don't think we were at our best. And as you say, I think that's a testament to two things. One, the lack of quality, possibly in Nottingham Forest defence. And I think their tactics as well. They made that really open, which made it pretty easy for us to get through. But yeah, good from United. Clinical finishing when it was required, with all 3 goals, Rashford, Weghorst and Fernandes. But yeah, just a really, I mean, you just could not ask for more from that game. And you're right, it could have been not only the goal that was given and then disallowed by VAR for offside, but also the fact that we scored so early prevented it from developing into a really good atmosphere at the City Ground. Still a good atmosphere from the United away fans, so it looked like a properly good away end. United's first trip to Nottingham Forest since 1999, when we won 8-1 there. A stat and a story I'm sure everyone's seen in the build-up to this game. It was a high-demand match for United's away support, and they certainly made the most of it. It's a great ground to go to, a lovely ground just on the edge of the River Trent in Nottingham. And I was very jealous watching from home, especially with 3 goals to celebrate and one right at the away end, right at the end in front of the away support. Should we talk through the goals first? Because I think they sum up a few good themes, particularly with the first 2 scorers, beginning with Rashford, who after 4 minutes scores a really good goal. Terrible defending and goalkeeping, but you can only beat what's in front of you.
Firstly, the defending and goalkeeping lead leaves a hell of a lot to be desired. I mean, Rashford picks the ball up in 20 yards of space, doesn't really get shut down, faces
Diego Maradona-esque. No?
I mean, this is true. Like you said, the best players take advantage of what's put in front of them, and Rashford surely did that. I mean, it was a goal that kind of sums up, I think, everything that's so different about Rashford now than it was 12 months ago.
Yeah.
That is the kind of run, the kind of confidence that he just didn't have on the ball to even, when he gets to, I think it was Worrell and Freuler that he kind of took the ball between after they shut him down. 12 months ago, never would have tried to put that ball in between the two of them. And, in the end, he gets a little bit of luck, but you kind of make your own luck at times by actually just trying those kind of things, and they come off. It was a good finish in the end, although, like you said, the goalkeeping could have been better. I mean, he just continues to produce game after game. I honestly, watching the game, my reaction when that went in, after initially celebrating it, was honestly, I just kind of laughed. Because it's just like, it's almost got to a point now where Rashford feels so inevitable in every game that he's going to pop up with a moment like this, even when he doesn't play at his best. This wasn't his best game for the hour or so that he was on the pitch, but in the way that all the best players do, he pops up with moments.
Well, and that's the key as well. What we think about Marcus Rashford now is no doubt what he thinks. And you get the sense that this is a player who thinks, I am inevitable. Not in an arrogant way or anything, but the confidence that's flowing through him right now it's so evident to see. You can just tell he's not in kind of the complete opposite to what we were seeing last season. You can tell he's not thinking about his touches. He's playing off instinct and just the feel of the ball with his feet. And that's what you can do in runs like this when your confidence is so high. And you saw it in the goal that, you put it through Worrell and the other Forest defender, because, you think just a bit of space through there. If I get through there, great. I might have a chance on goal. If I don't, then oh well. I thought the most impressive bit for me was the step over. He has a bit. You're right. He has a bit of luck to get through the two defenders. Poor defending from them, but also a little bit of luck in the way it deflects. I think it's Worrell who gets the touch. Little bit of luck, but then the step over to get his body across Worrell to then give himself space to shift it from his right onto his left foot, shift his weight, and then finish with his weak foot it's really good. We know Marcus Rashford's really good, but it's really good and it's worth appreciating.
When to the point about sort of he knows that he's inevitable and how that changes his mindset too, it kind of goes back to what we talked about a few weeks ago with his celebrations too. It's such a small thing. Like, obviously the way he celebrates a goal doesn't change how he's playing on the pitch, but I think the fact that his celebration now, he's obviously got the sort of salute, and it's just the way he celebrates goals at the moment. It's like, I'm that good, and that's just what I do. It's not an explosion of joy or shock or anything else. He's almost just, he knows he's going to score eventually, and it's just a recognition of, like, this is how good I am. I am the main man in this team. And like I said, it doesn't change how he's actually playing, but I think it's just a sort of symptomatic of the confidence and the mindset that he's taken into these games.
Yeah, and we don't know what the reason for that is. He was obviously playing pretty well before the World Cup. There is the fact he scored 3 goals in 3 games at the World Cup. For starters, the fact one of them was like a great free kick. There's the fact that Cristiano Ronaldo's not at the club anymore. There's the fact that he's under a new manager who puts belief into him and gives him very specific responsibilities, that the mood around the club is good. Seems like everything is going pretty well in his private life. There were suggestions that wasn't going quite so well about a year or 18 months ago. Everything's come together for him, but it also feels it's not just a general happiness thing. It feels like he's just got this drive for goals now at the moment, and I think I saw a good, not necessarily a perfect comparison in every way, but a good comparison on Twitter, and I wish I could attribute it to the person who said it, but I've forgotten who said it. That it feels like when Ronaldo came back in 2006-07, and it really just started to switch on, and it felt like he suddenly knew. He was very confident before, there's no doubt about that. He was a big old showboat, but suddenly felt like there was just this inner belief and drive and directness to his play, and you're getting that from Rashford now, and it's brilliant to watch. It's lovely. Wout Weghorst's first goal for United. Forest obviously came back into it, but before then, very fortunate to that offside decision, so tight, and you'd be fuming if you're a Forest fan, and to be honest, you'd be fuming if you're neutral as well, because decisions like that's not what the offside rule was put in place for. But this is not the time to have a conversation about that. We got off with one. It was fortunate to score late in the half, but it's a good goal, great finish, and a great bit of play from Antony, who we'll speak a bit more about later, but mainly on Weghorst for now. That was a great finish and good for him as well.
Yeah, and fully deserved. I think in the Arsenal game and against Forest, I think he's done generally really well. We mentioned it a little bit in the last episode, talking about what he did bring to us, especially in the first half against Arsenal. And I thought it was more of the same tonight. There was some really, really lovely touches. Still, occasionally, he comes short a little bit too much. There was one moment in particular where Bruno Fernandes got a little bit frustrated at him because he sort of shut down Bruno's space. But in general, I think he's offered us a slightly less dynamic version of course, but something similar to what Martial does in that ability to come short, pick up the ball. He doesn't have Martial's ability to turn and run at players in the same way, but just being able to link up play and letting who are effectively just the more dangerous and creative players in this team, like Rashford and Antony and Bruno Fernandes, let them be the ones that get beyond him and really provide the main goal threat. That's, I think, what Weghorst has done and probably will do. He's certainly not any long-term answer. He's got plenty of limitations in his game, but his profile does match up quite well with the kind of striker that United need at the moment.
I found it really interesting because I think I asked you in the last episode, having been at the Arsenal game and you'd watched on TV, I think I asked you what you'd thought of Weghorst, because from the away end at the Emirates, which is really low, so it's quite difficult to get that kind of overall view and really see what's going on. I always think this with managers and touchlines that are below the pitch. I always think, how can you really read the flow of the game here? But that's a separate point. It was really interesting this time, having thought he played quite poorly against Arsenal, but being very aware that that was an opinion restricted by my view of it, to watch him now. Different game, a lot more space, coming under a lot less pressure, easier opposition, but I was impressed. There were just some, really good hold-up play. There was one bit where United were under a bit of pressure, had been for a couple of minutes, and goes up to him and he wins a foul. That's what I think we lacked a bit at Arsenal very late on, when his influence waned a bit. There was another one where he did really well, but he needed those runners off him and he didn't have it. So I agree with what you're saying, that that's what he's there for. I don't think it's not quite there yet. And there was another example where this time it was his fault for not making the run on the, can't remember exactly what minute, but wonderful Lisandro Martinez ball over the top. Bruno Fernandes cuts it back, and Weghorst almost got there, but he hadn't really read the Fernandes run, which started off very early from deep, and he set off far too late and wasn't there to meet Fernandes's cutback. And so in that sense, but also the sense of players not running off Weghorst, it's not quite well oiled yet, which is maybe a surprise given that he's fulfilling a somewhat similar role to what we wanted Martial to do if he were to be fit. But hopefully it will come with time. And that's the other thing, is if United's next striker is going to be of the same profile to Weghorst, then it's kind of like the rest of the team now have a dress rehearsal for the future striker to come in and get used to that style of play before a long-term option comes in.
Yeah, it's sort of like a bedding in process, isn't it, for someone of that kind of profile? And I think what Weghorst has shown us is what a player of his kind of style can bring to this team in terms of giving us that focal point. You mentioned that one where he won a foul after he'd been under pressure for a couple of minutes. That is the kind of outlet and sort of safety valve that we've really lacked at times, especially in big games when we have been under the cosh for sometimes 5 or 10 minutes at a time. And in attack, there's two in particular in the first half that led to good chances for Antony. One where Antony played it into Weghorst. Weghorst laid it to Bruno Fernandes, who then played it to Antony, and Antony probably should have scored. And Hennessy, to be fair, Hennessy made a good save, but
lovely goal, lovely move.
It would have been a lovely goal. And there was another one earlier on as well where Antony ended up shooting wide, but Weghorst got the ball. I think it was from Rashford or Malacia. It was coming in from the left-hand side. Lovely first-time layoff to Bruno Fernandes, who then played it out to Antony. It is those kind of touches. I mentioned that players like Rashford and Antony and Bruno Fernandes are, and in Fernandes and Rashford have been for a number of years, really the main sort of creative and goal threats in this team. And in some ways, we would love a striker that can score 30 goals a season. But in some ways, having a player like Weghorst, who probably isn't going to score tons of goals himself, but can sort of be something of a facilitator for those other players, is actually quite a useful role in this team at the moment. Yeah,
without a doubt. I think there were some bad bits to United's play. Defensively, clearly got away with one for the disallowed goal for offside. There was a good 10, 15 minute spell where Forest were well into it. But even, it's a funny one because the scoreline is convincing, emphatic even. And as I said at the start of the show, you really can't hope for much better than that. That's the perfect result, the perfect, not just result in terms of scoreline, but also no injuries. Rashford only played 55, 56 minutes. Eriksen got a bit of a rest, etc., etc. But I don't think we played that well. I think we had some really good moments. And in fact, there were some very short spells where we controlled it really well with good possession, patience, just kind of taking the sting out of the game and resting. But I don't think what we saw is a properly controlling performance, especially from about 30 minutes onwards until the final couple of minutes of the first half. But I also think the whole of the second half was just, I think Ten Hag, I can't remember after which game he said it, but it was after a United win. And he said something about it being too much like a tennis match. And he didn't say that today, but I think he may well have been thinking it, because it just didn't feel controlling, did it? It didn't feel like we completely killed the game like you might see Manchester City do in recent years. And in the end, maybe had we gone down that route, we might have only won 2-0. So it's a bit of it's a tricky one to make my mind up on. But we didn't. If Forest had played better, I don't think it wouldn't have ended like that, of course. Maybe it's a futile statement, but I think we kind of got away. We got away with one because of the opposition, in a sense.
Yeah, I felt, you mentioned United were poor defensively. I thought we were okay defensively in sort of structured defence. We were just terrible in transition, even more so than normal. Casemiro has really helped with that. Apart from
Lisandro Martinez.
Yes, yeah, he was excellent all day.
He was brilliant.
But in transition, we were unusually bad compared to what we have been really since the World Cup, where Casemiro has made a massive difference. Lindelof came in, I thought he was okay, nothing special really, but there was so many times when the ball would break, and Brennan Johnson in particular caused us all kinds of issues. Him and Gibbs White had quite a big influence whenever
they were both good,
whenever Forest
won
the ball back, they would break really quickly. I mean, it's where the disallowed goal came from. We lost the ball on the edge of Forest box after Rashford tried to play it across to, I think it was Eriksen or Fernandes. And we had literally no cover between the edge of our own box and our defence on the halfway line. So that is definitely an issue for United. It was, a game that could have ended up, like you mentioned, very, very differently. Who knows what could have happened after that? But it was a scoreline that certainly flattered us in terms of, goal scoring chances. Forest didn't create a whole lot outside of the disallowed goal, but certainly not a game where United really dominated and controlled things in the way that you'd want in a game like this. I've got to give some credit actually to Mads Thompson, who has been tweeting me for about a month now. Pretty much every game United have been going ahead saying that, we don't manage leads properly. And I think they have a point, and today was definitely a case of that. Sometimes it feels like United, when we go ahead, especially against opposition that on paper United should be beating, it feels like we just become a bit sloppy, and we almost play the game like we're already winning 3 or 4-0. And everyone sort of wants their goal. Yeah. Everyone, wants their moment in the spotlight, and everyone gets a little bit greedy or just becomes a little bit laborious, a little bit lackadaisical, and sometimes we get pegged back. It was very similar in some ways to the Everton FA Cup game, where again we went ahead and felt like we kind of dropped off a cliff. It's similar against Charlton as well, really, where sometimes we go ahead and we don't. Yeah, we keep our foot down and that we're still attacking, but it becomes too unstructured.
Well, we're neither getting the second goal nor really just making things slow.
Yeah, exactly.
We're stuck in the middle and that's never a good place to be, no man's land.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree, and it's going to be something that United need to improve at. We spoke before the World Cup. I remember saying one of the things that we wanted when we returned from the World Cup was to start winning some games by a bigger margin, because at that point we'd been winning every game basically by 1 goal. We have done that, but it is also still something that I think we need to improve on. Like you mentioned, you either really go in for the kill and you go not gung-ho in terms of throwing every single player forward, but you keep your foot on the pedal, really keep moving the ball quickly, trying to create good chances, or you just focus on kind of controlling the tempo, take the sting out of the game, but doing that without sitting back and inviting pressure on yourself.
Yeah. We're going to have to move on in a second. Antony, briefly, you've written a piece on him that you can direct people towards rather than restating everything here. But what were your thoughts on this game in particular?
I thought it was quite symptomatic of who Antony is as a player at this point. I thought he actually started the game really well. I've got to say, the first 5 or 10 minutes, he was really involved, pretty influential to every good thing that United were doing. Obviously got himself in some great positions. And I think that's really what I've found watching Antony most of this season, is that he's just quite strange, because as a young winger, most players like this, and Garnacho is a perfect kind of corollary on the other side for United. As this young winger, Garnacho has come in, he's very clearly brilliant on the ball, but out of possession, still has some work to do. Antony has kind of shown the opposite sort of profile in that his dribbling, his passing is not always the best. His decision making isn't great, but off the ball he's excellent, and that it makes him even more frustrating for fans because he gets himself in so many good positions. You know, in his movement off the ball is so intelligent. Defensively, he's pretty good as well. And so he gets in these positions, like we mentioned, for his 2 chances earlier, and just that end product isn't quite there yet. And that is the part of his game that he needs to improve on. So I thought tonight was quite symptomatic of what he's been all season. This player who gets himself in great positions but doesn't always make the most of them. Yeah,
such a shame as well. And I don't believe this is a long-term thing. I think he'll definitely come good. I have faith in him to do that. The price tag's not helping at all in terms of general public and media discussion, but it's such a shame because his first couple of weeks, his finishing was great. And he thought if he can carry on like this while fine-tuning the rest of his game, then no one's going to care a single bit. But just the fact that he missed that chance that we spoke about earlier, the really nice move on the edge of the box between Eriksen, Weghorst and him, just it makes it a lot easier for that discussion to persist constantly, which it is. So we won't talk about him for too long. I'm sure we'll come back to it.
And it's not all and it's not all on him as well.
No.
Like, it's also part of being in a team that is far less dominant than the Ajax team that he was used to playing in for the last couple of years. He's getting less support than he was before because he was starting to build a good relationship with Dalot before Dalot got injured.
Yeah.
So Wan-Bissaka's come in. Wan-Bissaka's done well, but it's just different.
One, I don't know the reason for this. I haven't quite worked out why, but Wan-Bissaka's playing, well, at least today, played very tucked inside, never made the overlapping run. I don't know whether that's because of a perceived weakness of Wan-Bissaka's, of Antony's, or to be cautious about the Forest counter-attack, but it didn't help Antony because he never had that overlapping option, apart from late on when Fernandes started making it a lot more. So there's
odd because for a player who loves to cut inside, an overlapping run is exactly what he wants. Take a defender away, create some space in field.
Yeah. What's your piece on Antony? Where can people find that?
You can go to my Twitter. It's on my Substack newsletter. It'll be my pinned tweet. You can go and see, called Antony, the confounding player, just looking at his profile and how different he is to most young players. Nice.
Final thing on the Forest game, Lisandro Martinez was given man of the match by, or at least on Sky Sports he was, by Gary Neville, which he loved to see, and he received it very gratefully, very smiling. I love the contrast between him on and off the pitch. There was a brilliant tackle today. I love watching him play. He's brilliant. There's a contrast between that lovely floated ball over the top to Fernandes, which didn't quite work with the Weghorst move. Worked from Martinez's point of view, but not the final bit. Then that crunching challenge to stop a Forest counter-attack. And then also off the pitch where he's kind of got a cut eye and that headband on, receives his man of the match awards, and he's very, very softly spoken and he's quite gentle off the pitch. I love what a masculine icon. Let's wrap up. Very quick bit of youth news. The under-21s beat Feyenoord 2-1 last night. It was the final game in our Premier League International Cup campaign. We had played Sparta Prague, Monaco, PSV Eindhoven all before Christmas. Lost most of the games, but beat Feyenoord, which is good. Charlotte McNeil scored both goals. The first one was just a very smart first-time left-footed finish past an outrunning goalkeeper, and the second was an audacious effort from the left wing after he received it from Noam Imran. Probably the game most notable, as well as a McNeil brace, but for 5 debuts, all off the bench. 2 15-year-olds, Shea Lacey, who's a very exciting attacking player, plays on either wing or in attacking midfield. Lovely feet, wonderful passing vision and execution. He is 15, so I should not be talking about him in such exultant fashion. But yeah, he's been exciting so far in the under-18s. Jace Fitzgerald, the other 15-year-old to make his debut, scored, I mentioned this in the episode at the weekend, scored an absolute scream against Liverpool for the under-18s at the weekend, which is worth watching. One 16-year-old made the under-21 debut, James Scanlon, and 2 17-year-olds, James Nolan and Louis Jackson, who you might remember stepped in for Tyler Fredrickson at centre-back in the FA Youth Cup final back in May. last year and did a very good job. Was called out of his school lesson to go and play in front of 67,500 people at Old Trafford and did very, very well. So an under-21s debut for him as well. Final thing before we go, Jack, is the Reading match.
And in loan news, Charlie Savage has gone on loan to Forest Green Rovers as well.
Yeah.
Confirmed in the last couple of days. I mean, he joins Forest Green bottom of League One, so he's got a bit of a task in his hands to...
I think they've just sacked their manager as well.
Didn't they, as well?
Yeah, so I was quite excited by that move just because I think he needed to go out and get some first team experience if he wasn't going to get it at United, which he's not. But slightly weird to go into a club and have their manager sacked pretty immediately. So we'll see how that one goes. Reading on Saturday 8 PM, FA Cup 4th round. Nice opportunity for Ten Hag to have a think about his team here, because with the Forest tie not wrapped up, touch wood anyway, even though I've not jinxed it there. But it's an opportunity here with 2 games where he can think, which of these do I want to prioritise? You'd think he will now prioritise the Reading game, probably a half and half kind of system for the Reading and the Forest games to come and get a bit of rest going, which is very good. I'm going to predict United win because we should absolutely be beating Reading. I'll go for a 3-1 victory. What will you go for? In fact, not 3-1. We should be beating 2-0.
Well, I think you're right about sort of the half and half thing. Yeah, I doubt there'll be anyone, at least not any sort of first 11 players that play both the Reading game and the Forest second leg next week. Wouldn't surprise me if you see us go relatively strong to start with, hope to have a lead at half time and then see a lot of players come off before the hour mark. I will go with a slightly uncomfortable 2-1 win.
Yeah.
So sort of similar to the Charlton game.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be comfortable because I expect we'll have a different goalkeeper. I think Maguire will start. I think Lindelof will start. I think Wan-Bissaka will start and maybe Shorter. But I just think it'll be a changed team. I don't think it'll be that comfortable. And we've been pretty reliant on Rashford's goals and Fernandes as well. And I don't think either of them will start the game against Reading. We'll see. But
Fernandes is the one that really, and Rashford, but Fernandes as well, just because we don't really have anyone who can naturally step in there. We have Eriksen, but obviously he's been playing in midfield with Van der Beek's injury.
Yeah,
it's hard to see where Fernandes is going to get rest from. So taking advantage of these next couple of games is going to be huge for him.
Yeah, Kobbie Mainoo's continued to be on the bench for these last few games, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if he starts against Reading, which would be great. Having started against Charlton in the League Cup, which was an equally significant cup tie, if not more, given it was a cup quarter final. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays. Same with Garnacho and Pellistri, would be no surprise. Possibly one for Sancho to make his return in, but Ten Hag didn't seem to be suggesting he'd come back immediately. So we'll see. But yeah. If anyone's going to that game, enjoy it. If you're watching from afar, enjoy it. And we'll wrap things up there. Jack, reminder of your Twitter again.
It's at UTD Tait, Tait.
And my Twitter is at HarryRobinson64. The podcast itself is at UTD Weekly Pod. That's POD at the end there. You can find information there about how to sign up to become a patron for as little as £1.50 a month. You get ad-free early release episodes with a bonus Q&A at the end of each Tuesday morning episode as well. So if you're interested in that, go do it. Otherwise, if you want to support the show in a free way, you can leave us a review on whatever podcast app you use. And otherwise, have a lovely week and we'll speak to you very soon. Goodbye.
Podcast Network.